Welcome to Crystal Clear Moments. Hi there, I'm Crystal Blackwell, your host, executive coach, speaker, and your biggest cheerleader on this journey of transformation. This just isn't another podcast. It's a space where aha moments happen, where we get real about the twists, turns, and breakthroughs that shape us. You know those moments when everything just clicks? Well, that's what we're here for. Every episode, we dive into powerful conversations with inspiring leaders, change makers, and everyday warriors. We have faced challenges, embraced growth, and found clarity in chaos. We'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll learn to leave every conversation a little wiser and a lot more empowered. So if you're ready for an eye-opening, inside, bold conversation and some serious motivation, you're in the right place. Let's get clear, let's get inspired, and let's make every moment count. This is Crystal Clear Moments, where one breakthrough can change everything. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back again. Before I introduce our guest today, I wanted to just share some feedback I've received on the web, on my podcast. And I'm so incredibly humble and grateful that people take time out to download Crystal Clear Moments, rate my podcast, and leave me some notes. Let me share with you just some things that's been placed into my episodes and my ratings. So first of all, I am still holding strong a 5.0 rating. So I am so grateful that you find value in what we're sharing and you're finding value in our guest and you're getting some insight and information. So one of my latest pieces of ratings I got was a 5.0 from a gentleman in Phoenix by the name of John. John, thank you for giving me a rating, but also leaving this note that says incredible information and insight. And I can't do this alone. This is really because of the guests that come on Crystal Clear Moments that share their crystal clear moments in their lives for all of us. I believe that it's all of us that make this world a better place by sharing our journey, our crystal clear moments, and we learn and we get insight from one another. So thanks again. I'm so grateful for you to support Crystal Clear Moments. So let's talk about our new guest here today. Let me tell you, before I even go into the bio, because I want to read this entire bio. I typically condense bios, but this is just too much to sort of put together in one summary or one paragraph. When I launched Crystal Clear Moments a couple years ago, now I'm approaching my 50th episode, I had 5 people in mind. And Dr. Larry Leverett, you were one of my 5 people that I really wanted to have on my podcast because I believe you have an incredible story to share. And I don't know a whole lot. I just intuitively feel that way, that you do, and what you do in the industry that you represent, that you have awards in that space. And I know that's going to be inspirational, what you're going to share. I've gleaned from afar, your work with your wife, your work with your family, your contributions to our community. I'm a student of life, so I'm always observing what people do and taking in. I feel like I'm the kind of person that's like, why try to recreate it when you can see someone else do it and you can emulate it? Why do that, right? When you see something of excellence, you can always model that. So I'm excited that you've taken on this. I know it took us a minute to get you wiggled up in here. You're a very busy man. Yes, I am so honored to have you here. So before I go into the bio, even more so, is that we have a strong connection with a family friend that I think that you and I deeply loved and adored, and loved her. I think it's interesting when people love the same person, is there's a unique connection there. She's no longer with us, but I believe that our families are connected by this beautiful being who loved both of us. She looked at you like a brother and looked at me like a sister. So in a weird way, I always felt connected because of that. And exactly. I think as human beings, we are connected through relationships, right? And relationships really are important, the real ones. We know there's some some shady stuff out there, but the real ones are long lasting and they're genuine and you feel those. So that's how we work. We're connected. Our families are connected. Let me share the bio before we dig in and get some crystal clear moments. Dr. Larry C. Leverett is a board certified plastic surgeon with over 25 years of expertise in aesthetic and reconstructive surgery. As the founder of Body by Leverett, Awatuki Center of Plastic Surgery and Reconstructive Surgery, he has helped thousands of patients achieve their desired transformations through innovation, surgical techniques, artistic precision, and compassionate care. I really love the compassionate care piece of all of this because I believe that's what people remember that. People remember how they're treated. People remember how you make them feel. And you're in transformation, just like I'm in transformation of the mind and leadership and what I do. You're in transformation of the body. So we kind of got that in common, a little transformation going on. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, Dr. Leverett pursued his passion for medicine at the University of Georgia, earning a BS in zoology, followed by his MD from Medical College of Georgia. He completed rigorous training in general and plastic surgery at Maricopa Medical Center in Phoenix and Wright State University in Ohio. His expertise spans body contouring, facial rejuvenation, breast surgery, and non-surgical enhancement, makes him a trusted leader in his field. Recognized by top docs, by Phoenix Magazine, and was awarded Surgery Resident of the Year. He is a fellow of the American College of Surgeons and an active member of the American Society of Plastic and Reconstructive Surgeries, the American Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery, and the International Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. That's a lot. That's a lot to chew on there. But you know, you're credible in what you do, and it's important that people know, like, your background. Like, it's a lot to become an expert, I'm sure, in your field. It's a lot in any industry.
Correct.
Beyond his medical practice, you know, Dr. Leverett is dedicated to mentorship. Mentorship is such an important part, I think, of all of us that lead in any industry, is to have that element of mentoring young people, mentoring people in different industries, education and community service. Also serve as on the board of directors for Black Family and Child Services, and is an advocate for diversity in medicine. Yes, that's one of my passions is DE&I. I know they're trying to kill it, but you cannot kill diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. We never have been. We were here in the original moment. We're going to be here to the end. You cannot get rid of that. Additionally, his research and published work have advanced medical techniques in reconstructive surgery. Dr. Leverett's philosophy is simple. Plastic surgery is more than aesthetics. It's about confidence, self-assured, and embracing the best version of yourself. I absolutely love that. You are married to Denise. She's your partner. She's your rock. I mean, you guys are like peanut butter and jelly. You always together. Remind me of me and Ivan. It's like you see certain couples you always see together. And I love that about that. You're a father of 3 young adults and living your life as empty nesters, kind of / like a little bit. Right. You know how it is Loving nowadays. That. You know, they pop in and out, but we're still empty nesters. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thank you for accepting this. So let's jump into some crystal clear moments. So welcome to Crystal Clear Moments. Your journey in medicine is inspiring. What led you to pursue a career in plastic surgery?
When I left medical school, I knew I wanted to do surgery. I didn't know what kind of surgery. And I took a general surgical internship in which you rotate through all types of cases, all types of specialties. During my internship year, I was called in the middle of the night to see this young girl who was about 5 years old. That's the good news. That's the end of the good news. The truth of the matter is they had a little dog. And little girls do what little kids do. And when the dog was trying to eat, she decided to rub her dog. And naturally, the dog defended his right to eat, and he bit off her lip. Now, I didn't say bit into. I said bit off her lip. Her entire upper lip from one corner to the other corner was gone. It was in a plastic bag on ice. Her mother was distraught. The little girl wasn't, because her mother did not let her see herself. And these things never happen at 8 to 5, 9 to 5. They always happen as emergencies. And they always make you pretty much curtail your plans for the next day. So, but because she was youthful, we took her to the operating room with a practicing plastic surgeon named Dr. Richard Dabb there in York, Pennsylvania. And when you try to replace tissues that's been totally removed, it's called a replantation. And so we have to reconstruct and reanastomose, reapproximate the arteries, the veins, the nerves, the muscles, the skin, and the lining of the lip.
Yeah.
The arteries we found and put together, the nerves we put together, the muscles we put together, but the arteries bring blood in and veins take the blood out. And if there are no veins to drain it, then the tissue gets venously congested and died. So we couldn't find any veins. So after 5 hours in the operating room, while we were still in the operating room, on went to the ICU, Dr. Dabb called 1-800-LEECHES. And from New York, they sent leeches to our location. We draped off the lip with cellophane so that the leeches stay on the area that we cared about. And for 7 days, we leached that tissue.
Wow.
And the leeches drained the venous return until her own venous return caught up. And the lip survived. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. And I wrote up that case in the Annals of Plastic Surgery. It was published. I was on the front page of the York paper that Sunday morning. And that was my first intro to the state of Arizona, because I didn't know where Arizona was, right?
I know, right?
I was told it was somewhere between America and Mexico, but not really part of either one. So I ended up being the featured speaker at the trauma meeting here in Wickenburg, Arizona.
Wickenburg. Oh,
Wickenburg.
boy. Yeah.
I didn't know what Wickenburg, I didn't know what Phoenix was, right? But I got a standing ovation of while I worked there, and that was tremendous. And I thought, you know, the case is good, but we gave this young lady a chance to have a normal life again.
Yeah.
Which I thought was huge.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my crystal clear moment that there's something behind this. We used to have, by requirement, every Wednesday morning in the training program, they have a thing called Morbidity and Mortality Conference, in which the residents present everything that happened that is unusual or had an untoward result on their services the previous week. So interesting cases were presented, bad results were presented, whether they were avoidable or not. So this case was presented just like the kid that might get shot in the head and comes in dead, stays dead, gets presented. So everything that was a fascinoma got presented.
Okay.
And I noticed that with the plastic surgeons, they were always last. And when everyone else was talking about the things that patients needed to have surgery for, most of the time the plastic surgeons talked about things that they wanted to have surgery for, which was uniquely different, especially in the cosmetic realm. And their desires for a normal life was just as important as the person who loses a breast for breast cancer. They just want to have a normal life.
Right.
And the fact the plastic surgeons were just phenomenal. Everyone really wanted to hear what they had to say. And I went to his office, and he was, unlike the general surgeons and some of the others, the thoracic surgeons, he had patients he operated on 20 years ago when they did breast surgery when they was in 20s, tummy tucks when they're in their 30s, faces when they're in the 40s and 50s. And so these patients desire surgery because the plastic surgeon allows them to feel normal about themselves and to recreate that sense of self-esteem that they may have lost as a result of aging or giving birth to kids or trauma from cancers and reconstructive procedures such as that.
Right.
So that kind of ignited my flavor for plastic surgery.
Wow. So what I'm hearing you saying is the desire for plastic surgery, either it's cosmetic or because of reconstruction, is still the same.
It's still the same.
People still want to have self-confidence. They still want to improve their image. They still want to have a better life. It's the same feeling.
Right.
Same emotion.
There's so much that you can do with was psychology, was encouragement. But there are certain things that it's much easier just to give the kid a normal life. If you had a kid born with a cleft lip and palate, when he's perfect in your mind because he's your kid, but you can see his teeth from his nose all the way down to his lip, and there's no lip in the middle. And I, as a mom, as a parent, we say God made you perfect. He doesn't make mistakes. But isn't it easier just to give the kid a normal lip so he have a normal life?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And even though that's reconstructive to him or to her, it gives them a chance to have the normal life.
So I have a question. So is the surgical procedure different, like in terms of your technique, when you're doing like cosmetic plastic surgery and you're doing like a reconstruction? Is it, or this technique is the same?
The technique is the technique, but the tissues are different.
Okay.
Right? The younger the patient, the more apt he or she is to heal with the minimal scar. Right? The older the patient, that's taken away. Patients who smoke have a extreme high risk in tissues that have flaps, meaning that you separate the tissue from its main blood supply. And people who have unprotected exposure to the sun have significant facial aging. So the tissues are what they are, and you just have to take them and do the best you can for what you present it with. The clay is the clay.
Right. So in your mind, it's his art.
Yes.
Like when you look at a patient, when you're in surgery, it's just like you're an artist, like you're sculpting. And is there something that you do that that you only do because of your?
I don't know that I only do.
Right.
I know that I've stressed to doing, and that is when all fails, listen to the patient. Because the patient will tell you what really bothers him or her and what they're trying to achieve. And that may not be what you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
It may not be what you think is going to make them aesthetically more pleasing, right? But if she has aging eyelids and that bothers you, but all she really wants to do is get rid of granddaddy's hanging droopy nose, that bothers her.
Right,
Okay?
right, yeah.
Much more deeper than the saggy eyelids. So I've never tried to talk anybody in the operations. They all come in knowing exactly what they want. And we give them the information that they ask. We also give them the information that they didn't know that they didn't know.
Okay, yeah.
So they can make an informed consent, and so they never say, I wish you told me X, Y, and Z, I would have done this instead or in addition to. And so our consultation is longer than most people's consultation because we put every information that is pertinent in their hand, in their laps, even if they didn't know they asked it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you have a stellar reputation. I know in the Valley, and I know we have podcasters all over the world, but in Arizona, in the Phoenix metropolitan, which is 5th largest city in the nation, you have a stellar reputation of good customer service and integrity. And I've heard that just from ex-patients or people that have gone to consultation. So definitely that is part of your brand. That's who you are. How do you get people, or have you ever had this where they come in and they want a particular surgery done and it's not possible? Is that even a thing?
Happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's important, once again, to make sure that they know what they're asking for and why it might not be in their best interest. And the example that I like to say is, we don't have any natural disasters in Arizona. We don't have hurricanes, tornadoes, avalanches, snowstorms, any of that kind of stuff. All we have is an occasional monsoon. And we have those less frequently than we did in the 80s when I came, right? But during the monsoon, it rains real hard, the wind blows real hard. And if my car gets nicked up from the monsoon, I bring it to Crystal's Blackwell's shop and say, paint it. Now you say, well, doctor, you need to have the dents fixed. The dents don't bother me, Crystal. I just want you to paint it. And then you paint it, and I say, but my car dented, it looks jacked up. Is that my fault or your fault? The answer is both, right? So sometimes what you're asking for isn't what's going to give you the best result. And it's my job, it's my duty, it's my obligation to make sure that I do the right procedure for you, or I don't do it at all.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with walking away.
Yeah.
I'd rather you be upset with me because I did not operate on you than because I did.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, that's integrity, because that means, I mean, you have a value system that you use personally that is operating, that you are not going to change because of someone else's, what they want, their desires. You're going to stick to
I'm
it.
not trying to talk you into any procedure. Therefore, I tell you, I want to always tell you what you want to hear, but I will always tell you the truth.
Right. So I want to go back, because I love stories. I love hearing people's past. I think your of course your past creates your future, makes you who you are. So as you know, Larry, the child, the boy, when did you know that medicine was your thing? When did you know that you wanted to go into the field?
My process is long. I think their motivations can be positive and negative, and it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It matters that you get through the finish line.
Agreed.
When I was in grammar school, I always thought I was smart, but there was one girl in my class. Didn't matter what I did, she beat me. And I've used her example in a lot of mentorship, lecturing, leadership kind of things, examples to a lot of children. Her name was Cynthia Hawkins. I haven't seen her in 55 years.
Oh boy.
But if we had 6 courses, and I get 4 A's, 3 B's, she get 5 A's, 2 B's. If I get a 96 on the exam, she gets 98. And it didn't matter what I did, she was always better than I was. And I don't think she ever studied.
I hate those kind of people.
I hated it.
I hate that. I always have to study.
I know.
Even though I love school, I always have to
better.
study.
And as I got to high school, you didn't have to study very much. You study for the test. But when you get to college, that doesn't work.
That changes. Yeah.
Because there are certain things that you can do on your sleep. But there are physics and calculus and organic chemistry that you have to work for.
Yeah. Just you saying that, I just got high.
And so I figured out that I had to learn. And one way to learn was to study with people who were smarter than me in that subject. Okay?
Learn to learn. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't just wake up and pass every test.
Right.
I can do anatomy and physiology while I'm asleep. Right. I can write it, but calculus, organic chemistry, I had to figure out how to get there. And so I always narrowed many choices down to 4. Right. Coming out of high school, you can only do 4 things. You can get a job.
Right.
Didn't want to do that. Why would I ever get the job?
Right.
Go to the military.
Yeah.
I consider that, but I'm scared to go to war. I'm going to get shot at. I'm afraid.
Right.
I asked my mom if I could stay home and do nothing.
Oh, that wasn't happening.
Okay. So the only other choice was to go to college. 2 reasons. One, it had nothing to do with getting the job. It had nothing to do with doing successful. That's what the girls were going to be.
Yeah.
And my grandmother told me I had to go to college. And my grandmother was kind of like Barack Obama in that regardless of who is in charge in that session, her opinion was always the one that was gonna carry. And she said I was going to college, so I went to college. When I went to college, I went to be a veterinarian because I love anatomy and physiology.
Yeah, because your undergrad was zoology, right?
I went there to be a veterinarian.
Yeah.
But I decided I couldn't do yucky stuff, and so I decided then I'm going to go and change to nursing. My mother was a nurse. Her mother was a nurse's age. I'd be a 3rd generation nurse. But guess what nurses do? Yucky stuff.
Yucky stuff.
So I may as well go become a doctor. And that's how I ended up going to medical school because I was too weak to be a nurse.
Wow.
So I have a lot of respect for nurses.
Yeah, totally.
And once I got to med school, I went there to be an OB-GYN. But guess what they do? Yucky stuff.
Yes.
So I stopped from that and went and narrowed down to surgery or emergency room. And my first 2 rotations elective rotations as a seniors was surgery and the ER physician. I decided I liked surgery better.
Yeah.
So I went. That's how I went into surgery, and I became plastic surgeon as a result of that interaction with the lady the little kid whose lip has been bitten off.
Is there certain skills that a surgeon have to have with their hands, that a unique skill that you would have that maybe someone else wouldn't?
So
you know what I mean? It's, I think people think that, I know I'm not in the medical field at all, so I think I can probably speak for a lot of people who aren't, but I think that, we hear about the surgeon's hands and they need to, you need to be able to do things. Your hands are, again, like an artist. Is there something skill set that you have that you find that's a little unique?
The answer to that is yes, but you must be able, amiable, affordable, and available. The 4 A's.
Okay.
But the most important of those is able, right? when you're on the plane and there's severe turbulence, you don't really care if you like the pilot. You don't really care that you paid more for the first class seat than the other person paid in the economy seat.
Right.
You care that he's able.
Right.
Right. When you have to have emergency heart surgery or neurosurgery, the guy could be a jerk. The surgeon could be a jerk, but you care that he or she is able. So you must first be adequately trained. You must keep up. You must read. You must go to conferences and learn the nuances, the pros and cons of the things that what not the things that you learned 20 years ago are still applicable, or if there are new, better ways of getting to the same result with less risk and with less scarring. Okay. Then you must be available. And as you come out into to start to practice, the guys who are well established may not want to do call. I had 2 kids. I had no money. I had no collateral. So I took a lot of call. And I did an average of about $100 a week running up and down highways to 14 hospitals, taking call everywhere I went.
Wow.
But that's how I fed my family.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I get that.
And then you must be amiable, right? You have to listen to people. You have to be likable. You can't just be a jerk because unlike colorectal surgery or endocrine surgery, in my field, everybody's replaceable. If they don't like you, they can elect to go elsewhere, right? So you have to listen to them, okay? And once you do that, the affordability takes care of itself. But you first must be able, and you must be current, right? If you're not able, if you're not current, then you're not offering your patients the best options. There are better options.
I love that you say that, because oftentimes I'm meeting with like my clients, or even when I'm doing mentoring, I'm always talking about, always invest in yourself in terms of self-development, like whatever that is. And when you talk about you always, going to conferences and learning the different types of, I'm sure as technologies advance, there's different techniques that you're probably learning. So you have to invest in that so that you can still stay relevant, right? And still in the cutting edge. What would you say currently in 2025 is something that a current technology, or is AI part of that, or are you already in that? You're already in that space and people are hearing about it. Like what's current that either you're using or you see coming down the pipeline in terms of surgery, cosmetic surgery?
The biggest enhancement in cosmetics in the last 10, 15 years is the continued development of non-surgical injectables, fillers, Botox, and issues and PDO threads. There are many patients for whom surgery is not ideal right now. She looks in the mirror and then finds out that she's not as useful as she wants to be, but she's in a wedding in a month or 6 weeks. She can't have an incision right now, or she's anti-surgery because someone in the family had an untoward event. And so you give them what you can, make sure they understand the difference in what you can offer them non-surgically as opposed to surgically, right? I have a nurse injector who does our Botox. She does our fillers for lips, for lines and wrinkles. There's a thing called PDO threads, which can elevate the brows, the cheeks, clean out the jawline and the neck non-surgically, and no incisions whatsoever, no scars, no sutures or anything on the face. And so there are a lot of ways to get there, to get close results, similar results, not necessarily the same results, non-surgically. And that's been a tremendous enhancement because there are a lot of people for whom they just don't feel that they need surgery. And this is kind of a way to test the water and see what changes can be achieved before you actually jump in and take the plunge.
Good. So as being a Black plastic surgeon, how is that in the field? Is that different culturally? Do you have obstacles that maybe your counterparts wouldn't have?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
How is that showed up for you?
I'm not the first Black plastic surgeon in Arizona.
Right.
But I'm the only one I've been there in June will be 30 years.
Oh, congratulations.
When most people now that come to see me are referred by previous patients.
Right.
So they know what to expect.
Yeah, right.
But for people who don't, who get me out of the plastic surgical reference pages, they don't necessarily come to me because I'm Black. And so, but they choose me because I'm able and I'm informative, right? There are places in Detroit or Atlanta or Chicago
Right.
where you could make a good living just operating on Black patients because there are plenty of us there.
Yes.
In Arizona, you can't.
Right.
Right? Some people will find me who look for me, but most 80% of my patients are not Black.
Right. Right.
They choose those other because of those other four attributes that are listed previously. There are there's one case specifically in which I saw a lady 20 years ago. Very sweet lady. She came in for surgery for a consultation, and her husband said I was consult number 2. Her husband said she had to see C3 and make a decision. She saw me on Thursday, and she called me on Monday afternoon crying, and I hadn't seen her, and she told us that she went to see this other surgeon, who said don't go to him. He's only here because of affirmative action. And she was a Caucasian patient, and she called crying, feeling sorry for the bigotry that she had to listen to.
Wow. Yeah.
And I ended up doing her case. I also ended up sending him a love letter from an attorney.
Good for you. Right. Right.
But the point is, there are situations that arise, and patients won't necessarily tell you that. Sometimes I can walk into the room and I can see the eyes of the surprise in their eyes. Oh, I didn't know, right? And sometimes it's the Black patient or the Hispanic patient, or Caucasian patient.
Right.
So, but I don't carry myself as the Black guy.
Right. Right.
I carry myself as the able guy, the guy that's going to deliver on your expectations.
Yes, I love that. And it's interesting how we're making another loop around affirmative action hires. You know, for a while there, to me, I feel like it goes like up and down. You hear about it and then you don't, and then you hear about it. And now it's back, and I feel like it's been rebranded in the D&I space, and anyone that's successful in their field of color, Black, especially if you're doing well, others want to say that you're there because of that. Like you got a hand up or a lift up. And we all know people who do well, who are excellent in what they do, it's hard work every day to deliver in any role that you're in. It's difficult work. And we're blessed to be around people that are excellent in all types of fields. So we see that all over, and we know their stories, and we know it's not affirmative action. It's not DE&I hire, any of those types of things. Do you find as you start to, you're part of your career, you're probably at the end of your career, seeing young professionals come up, and I'm sure you're probably having conversation, mentoring. How are we positioning them in terms of not being the Black plastic surgeon when people are they're always putting that in your face? I mean, we can say that, but the reality of it is when people look at us, they see that first. So how do we arm them?
So D&I, equity, diversity, exists whether we want to or not. Right now, as you know, looking at the cabinet that's been elected, D&I says you can do anything you want to as long as you're white.
Right.
In 4 times, affirmative action, DE&I says that it allows folks who are very qualified a chance, whereas without it, folks like us who are very qualified had no chance to get in the door.
At all.
At all. You had legacy admissions into school and people who were unqualified, but they look like their parents, and their parents paid the alumni fees, and they took seats from you and I who were more qualified.
You got it, right?
And we haven't reversed that.
That still goes on. That's going on strong.
Right.
Yeah.
So when I see a patient, a potential patient, I don't talk about being Black. They don't choose me because I'm Black. They want to know that patient, whether the patient is female, whether the doctor is female, Hispanic, Asian, Black, is qualified to deliver, right? And once you deliver, they realize that you're not here because of the way you look. You're here because you're able.
Right. Absolutely.
And yet you must keep up. And so those efforts that we have now that are in place at the administration to put well-qualified people out of business are awful. But those people aren't going anywhere.
Right.
You look at what they did to the chief of armed services.
Yes. Yes.
Very qualified, 4-star. They put replace him with a guy who looked like them.
Yes.
Who was so unqualified.
Yes.
The secretaries that have been put in have no experience.
None.
But they all look like the majority.
Yeah.
And so that's the DNI of the in the opposite
other direction. I agree with you.
But it still exists.
Well, it's because it's for them. They can justify that by saying it's not DEI.
But
when we know it is, and of course people think that DEI is a black thing, when it's everyone is part of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So, and the other aspect that I realize is that power is something that an attribute that's not easily shared. Because the more you get, the more it takes away from me. Right? When your kids were 10, 12, 13, you could tell them something, they say, okay, mom. When they're 25, they say, I think about it. Okay? Because they have become young adults, and your ability to be authoritative diminishes as they become more adult. Right? It's the same way with that people look at the DNI. The stronger you get, if you as a black female gets voting power, then me as a white male can't make all the rules. But it takes away from me. So sharing is in their opinion, a loss to them, as opposed to keeping them and bringing you along as well.
Yeah, I will say this. I think that the media, and there's good media. I have to say that because I think sometimes we think of media and we go negative. There's good in everything, but I'm optimistic just by nature. But the media wants to portray that all businesses, all places are rejecting DE&I as a way to shape their culture within their organization. And I know of organizations that their value system is DE&I. And I like to say that as much as possible because I think that it helps change the narrative that there's businesses, owners, CEOs, chief officers, leaders who still believe in that and are courageous enough to stand firm on it and not fall into play. Because if you just listen to the news, you think every business is against it when it really isn't. I think that, again, that's the messaging and a trick, that trick of words, tricking people to think one way. So we have to, as much as I can, I like to share that out. There's companies out there that still believe in it. It's not all.
Well, but wording significantly changes perception that we have to events, right? You can ask a mega person what he thinks about Obamacare, and he hates it. Ask him what he thinks about Affordable Care Act. He loves it.
I agree. Yes.
And the thing that makes him hate it is simply the word Obama. The exact same protocol. How many people don't want to have their kids stay on their insurance till they're 26? Everyone does.
Everyone does.
Everyone benefits from that.
Yes, everyone, right? Absolutely.
But if it says Obama, they don't want it.
Yeah, so true. Because Ivan, my husband, just retired from healthcare at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and when the Affordable Care Act came out, he had to study it. Of course, he sold it to his, to the brokers, and it was like huge, it's huge study material that he had. You had to know inside and out. And he said a lot of the brokers, people he worked with, would say, I don't want to sell my clients Obamacare, but I want you to give me that Affordable Care Act. And he's like, it's the same.
Correct.
It's the same. But, that, again, word choice, and then taking the initiative to educate yourself.
Yes.
You not just take for granted what people are telling you, not have that group think. Everyone thinks the same, walk the same, can navigate the same. Where people are comfortable doing that. So it's easy to get that mindset when you don't want to think differently. You want to follow.
So, as I said earlier, the young people particularly have to learn to learn. But the older people have to learn to unlearn some of the truths that don't work for us.
Amen. I am 100% with you with that one. Yes, definitely.
When it comes to politics, and religion, most people are whatever they were born.
Right.
They don't look at it critically.
Right.
They don't
Absolutely.
realize the rules have changed. They're not the
Yes.
same person.
Right, absolutely. My parents voted this way. I'm gonna vote this way. My parents like this. I'm gonna do that.
Same thing in church.
Right, same thing. All of that. I think at this point, with education at all of our fingertips, internet. I mean, there's no excuse. I mean, you could Google just about everything. As a matter of fact, you can have a conversation with a young person, and if they don't trust you, they'll Google the answer, and then you'll have a debate right there.
Correct.
They'll say, "Well, wait a minute, that's not what I just Googled that. That's not what it says."
Correct.
So I like the fact that you said, as we get older, we have to unlearn and relearn because things are moving rapid fast. And we don't know everything, and things have changed. And then young people do have to just become students of life. Know that you're always learning.
Right.
Just you're always in some sort of a school.
Correct.
And position yourself in places where you have to learn, which for some people could be vulnerable because especially if you're an overachiever, you like to feel like that you know the space that you're in, and you don't want to feel like you're vulnerable in a space that you don't.
We found
But that's
out
okay.
several years ago that people can have their own alternative facts, even though no facts support them except for those who believe them, who listen to them.
Right.
If when I go to a basketball or high school football game and you're losing 40 to zip and there's 3 seconds left, the cheerleaders still saying we're number one, we're number one, and all the fans in the stands are saying we're number one, even though you're losing 40 to zip. But all the fans will follow the main cheerleader. And they will all drink the Kool-Aid, even when the facts prove otherwise.
Yeah.
And you can't persuade them with logic or with facts.
Right. You can't. When did that happen? I mean, to me, I was always facts. Even now, I'm like, what are the facts? You could show me something. I'm like, okay, factually prove that to me. And I'm okay being like the Lone Ranger if the facts prove that. When did we become so swayed to getting things that aren't factual, more subjective?
Well, I think that, I know that people have the right to have freedom of religion. And freedom of religion doesn't just apply to what you might learn in a church group. It applies that my religion may be based on the ability to smoke marijuana at the church. My religion, what I really, really believe in is the fact that I support a liberal-minded God on Sundays, but the rest of the week I am very conservative and anti everything that the liberal-minded God might go for. And so the people want to worship and want to value whatever their values are, whether it's religious or not. And faith, it involves that which you can't prove.
Right.
So you can get people to believe anything. They can't prove it, but they'll believe anything, and they'll argue with you despite your proof. And sometimes I don't believe it, and if they don't believe it, to them it's true. You can prove that this is wrong, that the numbers don't work, right?
Right.
You can prove that the certain policies that are going on in inflationary, and it's going to significantly increase the deficit for your grandkids, but they don't believe that.
Right. Like now,
Because
a lot of the things we're doing now.
Because they follow the cheerleader who says, we're going to be best again by making everything all white.
Right. Yeah. I know. I was just thinking about, Ivan and I, we teach Sunday school for our young adults at our church. And I'm not going to even say teach because I'm going to take that out. We facilitate.
Okay.
We just allow them to share, and we just coach them through. We don't, we share opinions when requested, but we allow them to share. And I'll tell you when I say young people, I'm thinking like 35 and below, 35 to like right out of college, right out of high school age. And we have the whole range, and what they're talking about is a whole different conversation than adults, over 35 and what's important to them. And I will tell you when the election happened and that Sunday after and they came in, they were stunned. Like they stopped. They didn't even know how to move forward. They were almost in a shock space. And we had to facilitate that emotion, and so it's not like Bible-y, that sort of a situation, of course, we infuse those principles within the class because we're talking, but they want a safe space to say, I don't like it. They want to have a safe space to say, this isn't fair. What happened? You guys promised me if we did this. We're afraid of our future. And these are kids from backgrounds that are, I would consider of a privilege, where parents are educated or either they're exposed to higher education, most of them paid for, you know what I mean? A privileged area, and they're afraid of what the next step would be. So I do sense that our young people have a level of fear in them of what the future has in store. And then I reflect back in my 30s, I think I was fearless.
Right.
Completely opposite. Right. So as a mentor, as a community leader, I mean, what would you recommend? How do we really address that?
So you have to figure out what the target is, right? If the target is the state of affairs in the country, and we know things are moving backwards as opposed to progressing.
Agreed.
You identify the target, then you figure out where you can have an input. One of America's greatest citizens ever, in my opinion, was Frederick Douglass, who was a runaway slave. And Frederick Douglass said he prayed every day, to get free. And he didn't want to wait till by and understand it when he was dead. He wanted to be free while he was alive. And his prayers only were answered when he took it upon himself to get involved and do things and escape.
That's it.
You can pray. Sometimes you pray for somebody above to make things happen, but you have to get up off the seats and be your own advocate. So for the young folks right today who are out there who can't believe the dynamics that the majority of the country voted for. It was a small majority, but it was a majority. You have to figure out where you can input, right? So you only really have two things. You can protest peacefully, or you can vote, right? And
please vote.
Please vote. And the young people are too busy to vote because quotation marks, my vote won't matter in quotation marks. But a few votes makes a huge difference.
The difference,
right?
Well, we just proved it,
right? You have to. They have to vote. They have to get their friends to vote. They have to get their friends to register to vote. And they have to realize that the issues that are being discussed in Washington will affect them longer than they're going to affect you and I. So even though you and I vote, it's more about them and their kids.
Right. Yeah.
So they have to get involved.
Yeah. I recently just kind of shifted. I was in the last decade, and try to model that for my sons. The understanding of local politics and how it funnels up. And the importance of your mayor, your council, understanding how your city works and the decisions that are made, the importance of the chief of police, and all the details. I think that sometimes that we don't really look at. We just look at that presidency, and we maybe look at the governor. But after that, we kind of get it's distant. It gets very distant, but it really, I think, goes the other way. Like, we have to pay attention so that the message can go to Washington from us, because they're representing us. And if they don't know us, they don't know what we want, they don't know what to say. So trying to really get that piece. And I'm finding for young people, that's a nice, smaller bite. They can chew on that. It's small, but they look at the presidency part, they feel like, well, I can't impact that. But
I think, I was talking to my daughter on my way up, and she's a tutor. And she had a kid who was struggling, and she found a different way to reach him by making the math more related to the money in his bank, plus and minus, as opposed to some of the other modalities that are being used at the school. And so, when I think about my young people, I have 3 kids. They're all very different, and they don't have the same level of involvement or pay the same level of attention to local politics and national and regional politics. But, you have to figure out how to meet the kids where they are.
Right.
And you may have a young person who would not let someone our age tell them what to dress, tell them how to style their hair, the length of hair that must be maintained. but they will yield something more important, like their tax burden. They will yield some more about the maintenance of Social Security that they're paying in that may not be there when they retire.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
if they won't yield something minor, such as their clothing,
Right. Right.
they need to pay attention to something more major and have much more lasting impact. So you have to find a way
It's good.
to reach them. They all have the same genetic makeup, but they're all very different. And what works for kid one may not work for kid two or kid three.
Yeah.
So you
I understand
have to
that.
discuss with them and meet them where they are.
Isn't that crazy how that is?
crazy.
You can have same household, same parents, same
school,
same
everything.
school. I mean,
They're different.
everything, and they're so different. And I know our boys are completely different. I even communicate with them differently. Like I communicate with Chase, my oldest son, very differently than I do with Kobe. Word choice, situation, but I had to learn that because one kid I was hitting the wall and I wasn't getting through, and I was like, I'm a pretty good communicator. What's going on? So I had to figure out, how to get through and not require him to change. I had to change. And that's going to your point earlier about us learning.
Yeah.
Unlearning, where, I don't know about you, but my mother communicated with us one way.
This is my way of
This is my way to highway, and that's all we knew that was generations of that. So we're just learning how that we could change the way we communicate. If we want to get results, if we want them to hear us, we have to. So
Fortunately, my wife's still here.
Yes.
So when I say something, can I just talk to mom? And I'll mumble under my breath, but mom will get to them and explain it in a way that they'll appreciate it. Even
I can so see that.
Even if what the ultimate answer is going to be the direction that I say we're going to go, they appreciate it better because it's offered on a softer plate than the way I say it.
Okay, so are you the direct parent or are you the soft landing parent?
I'm the direct parent.
Okay.
I'm the bad cop. She's the good cop.
Let me see. I think I'm probably a little bad cop, a little bit. I think I can be a little, I think I'm a little tougher than Ivan. Ivan approaches it differently, a little more diplomatic, I think, than I do.
Well, I think there's a place for that, but at some point you just gotta
just say it.
At some point you can't cross the street in front of the car.
Right.
We don't have to agree on
agree.
everything. You just need to pretend that I'm the dad.
Right.
In our house, we make the rules, right?
Right. Yes.
The good news is all of you have college degrees. You can have your own. You can only have your own house,
right?
And your rules. And I support your house, your rules.
We follow the same model, right? Absolutely. Good. So as we wrap up, I always ask everyone this question, and you may or may not, and this may be the first time, but do you have a word that you've picked for this year or just in general that's really resonated with you? So I'll share mine. I've been resonating with resilience, just really deepening my resilience in all things that's going on in the world, being able to have a good bounce back.
I'll choose a phrase as opposed to a word if that's okay.
Okay, yeah, perfectly fine.
And my phrase would be necessary.
Love that.
In all things, be necessary. In your kids' lives, be necessary so that they move toward the direction of success and happiness, as opposed to being miserable when you know that their chosen path is going to lead them down an errant road. Be necessary in the life of your patients. Because they may get information from you that they may not get from anybody else, and therefore they make an untoward result and give plastic surgery a bad name because they were mistreated or feeling taken advantage of. Right? Be necessary in my marriage. I try to be there for my wife. She can tell you how well I do sometimes, and maybe I don't do so well at other times, but I want to be necessary. And I think that if you figure out the arena in which you thrive, if you're necessary as opposed to just coexisting, you'll find that the view is always better at the top than at the bottom.
Love it. Well, Dr. Leverett, you are necessary, and I receive those words. Be necessary. Thank you. Thank you for being my guest. I know that you inspired others. I always feel like I learn every time I meet with people like yourself. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you. I appreciate your family. And thank you, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in to Crystal Clear Moments. Don't forget to rate me, download the episodes, share with your friends, be intentional, and go out in the world and create your own special Crystal Clear moments. Thank you.